So the second video is all about sleep training needs to be repeated. Now, if you watched the last video, so the first video in this series, you would have found out right at the end that at best, sleep training is a bulldozer approach to put the brain into a submissive state, right? So this is where we left our last video, and this is where we're going to be picking up here, because the thing is that putting the brain into a submissive state is obviously why it needs to be repeated, okay? So the events that actually cause it to be repeated are things like developmental changes, like sleep regressions, like nap drops. And I just want to add a note about nap drops here. I don't think everybody understands what a nap drop is, but a nap drop is actually a neurological change. A nap drop is needs to happen for a baby or child or toddler at the time where their brain is actually looking for more input from their environment and needs less time to process it, because the brain obviously gets stronger as they grow, okay? Also, other things that can trigger needing to repeat illness and holiday or vacation, okay? Okay, so these are things that would generally trigger the brain to then obviously revert back to a version of the old pattern and show that sleep problem, and essentially from there will cause the sleep to actually fall apart again, okay? So what is happening in the brain at this time? Okay, so first up, all of these things will put that brain into a heightened state of alertness, okay? So we have this heightened state of alertness, okay? So when your child is starting off with a heightened state of alertness, and then we add any of these events into the equation, it is very, very easy for this heightened state of alertness to trigger then the sleep problem again. Okay, so basically you then obviously have this heightened state of alertness. Sleep problem is obviously triggered by the brain to in this state, and then you're back at square one. Now, this is not the only thing that happens here, okay? So essentially all of these other events as well, so developmental changes, regressions, nap drops, illness, holiday, vacation, will actually cause overtiredness, okay? And I want to talk about overtiredness. What is overtiredness? Because that word is pretty much thrown around like Skittles, right? But essentially, if we're then talking about overtiredness from a scientific standpoint, we're talking about cortisol and adrenaline. So essentially that overtiredness is actually then triggering the cortisol to rise. Eventually that cortisol will actually trigger the release of adrenaline into the system. Adrenaline is the fight or flight response, okay? So realistically, it's a two mechanism reason why your little one will then obviously need that process repeated. And the thing is, it's actually not good enough to reestablish duration here. Duration of sleep is never ever going to completely control this overtiredness, right? Because we need not only duration of sleep, we also need quality sleep. Okay, so there's no amount of duration that's going to stop the overtiredness. It'll slow it down, but it won't actually stop it, because even if there is a bit of a quality discrepancy, that will actually trigger cortisol to raise over a period of time. It'll eventually get to the course of adrenaline, you'll have a rough night, and you'll be back at square one. So sleep training is not the answer. Sleep training does not stop overtiredness, okay? It is super, super, super important to understand that the only thing it does is a temporary band-aid to slow it down. It does not actually improve quality. To find the quality problem, we need to find out what is actually triggering the sleep to be poor in the first place. Not use sleep training, not use structures, okay? Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.